Hello, my name is David Ades. I'm a certified professional life coach, specializing in the recovery from narcissistic abuse. Today's video is meant to help you tackle the suspicion that you yourself are the narcissist, that you yourself are a narcissistic personality. It's difficult to settle this debate in oneself because the boundaries aren't clear between over here is what a healthy personality is like, and over here is what a narcissistic personality is like. In fact, the first thing that must be known in regards to this self-discussion, this self-inquiry, is the healthy personality makes use of narcissistic defense mechanisms. It's just that they aren't the only thing that the healthy personality makes use of. The reason it's healthy is because it makes use of other things as well. The pathologically narcissistic personality only has access to narcissistic defense mechanisms. They are lacking other ways of behaving, other states to embody. The healthy personality is also informed by, energized through, shaped by narcissistic drives. It's just that those aren't the only drives that a healthy personality is informed through. In fact, that's what renders it a relatively healthier personality. The narcissist is only informed by, energized by, shaped through narcissistic drives. That's their problem. They lack the other aspects of the human experience. So, a normal person, a healthy person, shouldn't be surprised to find that they possess narcissistic drives, that they show, to some extent, in some contexts, a tendency towards narcissism. It's just that they should also see tendency towards other things, and that would render them a kind of healthy, dynamic, balanced personality, or at least relatively speaking. There is no kind of final goal of a healthy personality. There's no one measuring stick for what makes a human subject, a unique individual, what makes them normal and what makes them healthy. My point is that it's not the lack of narcissistic tendencies that renders you a healthy personality. It's the presence of other things alongside the narcissistic element that renders you a relatively healthy personality. There's something called healthy narcissism, or primary narcissism. This is an inevitable, important, vital stage of human development. One needs to have a narcissistic element in their personality, and there's a stage of human development where that element makes itself known most clearly. It's in a toddler, somewhere between the ages of 2 and 6, is when the human being is most grandiose, most entitled, in other words, most narcissistic. When someone gets stuck in that stage of human development, then it's called secondary narcissism or pathological narcissism. Someone with narcissistic personality disorder is stuck mentally, emotionally, between the ages of 2 and 6. Hopefully it's closer to 6. Might even be just 2 and 3. So, a healthy personality also goes through healthy narcissism, primary narcissism, shows grandiosity, shows entitlement, for example, but then their development continues, like a healthy, personality would continue to grow. And so they're able to integrate that narcissistic element among the other aspects of the human experience. I want to pinpoint a kind of example of when a narcissistic drive or a narcissistic defense mechanism is actually an appropriate thing for a healthy personality. Let's take grandiosity or entitlement. When it's time to demand the respect that you know you deserve, When it's time to show that you can take on bigger things than, even maybe you think, you're going to make use of some grandiosity or some entitlement. You're going to say, you know what, I am entitled to respect from you. You know what, I am entitled to, equal treatment, so on and so forth. If you don't have access to any narcissistic elements of your personality, you're not going to feel that you are entitled to equal treatment or respect. Or if you don't have any access to the narcissistic element of your personality, or you're so afraid of it, or it's inhibited, or so on and so forth, maybe it's associated with pain because through narcissistic abuse you were taught that you're not allowed to be entitled and grandiose. The narcissist is going to be all of the narcissism. You don't get to have your own healthy narcissistic element. They strip you of that because they will be the narcissist, and you will be, nothing, basically. When it's time to tackle challenges that you question your ability to tackle, when it's time to face uncertainty that you're really uncertain about, there needs to be some access to a narcissistic element so that you'd be able to say, you know what, I can do this. You know what, I am good enough, I am strong enough, even though you have no idea whether that's true or not. Which is exactly what takes place during the stage of development referred to as, again, healthy narcissism or primary narcissism. Imagine a 2 to 3-year-old hiding behind mommy, hugging her leg. This 2 to 3-year-old needs to branch out from mommy little by little over time and face the big scary world. Without access to a narcissistic element, grandiosity being the main one in this example, the kid isn't going to feel like he can take on such an uncertain, unknown, sometimes scary and injurious world. Reality can hurt, and it's weird, and the forces of nature are unpredictable, and humans, being a kind of force of nature, are unpredictable. And the kid has to be able to feel within himself, you know what, I can do it, and I am big enough, and I am strong enough, and I'm going to go run over here. I'll run back to my mom, though, but I'll run out here, and then I'll run back to my mom, and I can conquer. I can conquer reality or I can show mastery over reality through the exercising of, let's say, a narcissistic element, grandiosity. So, again, it's just transcending that stage and integrating that into the other elements of the human condition that renders a personality healthy, so to speak. Although no one has kind of one measurement for what's healthy and what's not healthy. It's also largely culturally arbitrary, meaning in different cultures, for example, it's considered normal to behave more narcissistically, and in other cultures, it's frowned upon to behave in that same exact way. All of the world, all cultures, the kind of modern global culture that's forming is tending towards more and more narcissism. It's more and more appropriate to behave narcissistically, culturally speaking. It's even affirmed and encouraged. Narcissistic personalities get the most attention, they get the most likes, they get the most value out of the culture. So it can be difficult to distinguish between kind of what's healthy and what's normal and what's not. It really comes down to a human element. It's a kind of gut thing. You need to follow your nose. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. You need to grow and you need to learn and mature. And there's room for mistakes. But the point I'm trying to make is narcissists lack like a feeling of aliveness within them. And so the choice between am I going to follow the cultural trend towards narcissism or am I not, is a matter of can I and will I hold on to what feels human within me? Or am I going to kind of walk away from that in order to, win the cultural game or something, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's a very profound psychological question to ask oneself. What is my feeling of humanity? Where does it come up? And how do I get in touch with it? And blah, 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 blah. Stuff I'm not going to go into in this video. Narcissism teaches us about the human experience. It's not only that the narcissistic element of the healthy personality is welcome, and you need to accept it, and you need to work with it, as you need to do with all of yourself, accept yourself and work with yourself through time, through the joy and the pain and the accomplishments and the failures. Hone yourself, sharpen yourself. Not only is the narcissistic element welcome in the healthy personality, but even pathological narcissism is, of course, such a fascinating topic because it shows an element of the human experience. It shows one side of the human condition amped up to, 10 out of 10. It is this grandiosity that all of us possess in one way or another. It is this entitlement, that all of us possess in one degree or another. And of course, that's why narcissists and psychopaths that display some of the same traits like grandiosity can appear charming and confident and masterful. And I want to be like them, and I want to show the power that they show, and because we see some of that in ourselves. So, a narcissist is trapped because of their lack of human aliveness. They're trapped pretending to be alive. They're trapped pretending to be real. That's why you can't ever have full emotional intimacy with a narcissistic personality, because the thing that would be available for full emotional intimacy actually isn't there. This is a very harrowing state of affairs for the narcissist, which is why they're constantly trying to cover it up. You can't get close enough to reveal that they are this empty shell, because that's impossible for the personality to cope with. That's when narcissistic mortification happens. The narcissist's personality collapses to some degree, disintegrates, and then they have to try again to build a fantasy of themselves, which is all that they have. So, this is another element that we all have to some extent. We all, to some degree, in some contexts, across our lives, kind of pretend to be more than what we are. We pretend to have things figured out when we have no idea. And what I mean, I don't mean in a grandiose way. I mean, even I think I'm at a decent point in my journey down the rabbit hole of life, and I say, you know what, I'm real, and I have some things figured out, and I am a good person, and I am doing a good job. Lo and behold, something can happen today, tomorrow, the next week that shows me I really had no idea. And so the human, the personality, is trapped, pretending to have things figured out, to stability. The personality needs a pretense of stability. You need to believe that you're stable and you have things figured out and the sands aren't constantly shifting and you're not one moment away from catastrophe, right? One natural disaster destroys everything. But the personality needs to rest on a feeling that just isn't always the case, because otherwise it's fight or flight mode. The personality rests upon a kind of lie that everything is going to be okay. And I'm not saying it's a lie. I say a kind of lie, I mean intentionally, or trying to be precise, because I'm not sure if it is a lie. Right? I don't know if God exists for certain. I don't know if there's a flow of the universe that actually exists. The human is trapped kind of believing that there is something beyond themselves that they can lean back into and trust, even if it's just as simple or as secular sounding as their own unconscious, as their own subconscious, while also kind of knowing that they can't just rest on that all the time. You're trapped kind of pretending you have things figured out while knowing that you kind of don't have things completely figured out. And the narcissist, the pathological narcissistic personality, highlights this pretending element. And they do such a good job at pretending, it's actually hard to believe. So, my point is that the narcissist the narcissistic element of the human condition displays tendencies and drives and behaviors and defense mechanisms and you name it, that the healthy personality also possesses, just among other things as well. Not only that, but the narcissist, him or herself, the pathological narcissistic personality, is a human element that all of us possess. They're just extreme on that end, and they don't have access to any other aspects of the human experience relatively. Right? The more narcissistic they are, the less access they have to the other elements of the human experience. But we're all left hoping that we can piece things together in this life while perpetually learning that the way that we were just trying to piece things together isn't going to cut it. And so this is a kind of Buddhist or even psychoanalytic insight that the goal of life isn't to piece everything together and have it fully figured out, because there aren't like just pieces of reality that you can grab and figure out. That's kind of an illusion, maybe a necessary illusion, to the extent that you're under that illusion at this point in your life, and all of us are to one extent, then that illusion is necessary for you to that degree at this point in your life. But the insight is, it's actually about taking the pieces apart and revealing what is under the surface, which is kind of constantly shifting sands of time, impermanence, nothing lasts. Although the goal isn't to jump to that immediately. Too much too soon, the medicine becomes a poison, which is exactly what the narcissist, the pathological narcissistic personality, is dealing with. They're stuck at the level of reality where the sands are shifting all of the time, which is why they're always trying to collect narcissistic supply, trying to piece something together that refuses to be pieced together. While the healthy personality is intentionally aspiring to take themselves apart, slowly, let go of this, drop this defense, enter the impermanent flow of life, slowly but surely, safely, intentionally, the narcissist was shattered into the flow of life, which turns out to be a lake of fire when it's too much too soon. That's what trauma is. It's too much falling apart too soon. I'm going to end on the note of a quotation by the psychoanalyst Slavoj Žižek, who said that psychoanalysis shares the same goal as Buddhism, which is to come to pieces without falling apart. If you want my help personally, click the first link in the description to schedule a call with me. Click the second link to take a free narcissistic abuse recovery quiz. Like this video if you do like it. Comment any thoughts or questions you have in the comments. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more, and I will talk to you soon.